Okay, pallbearers, and the family can follow too. Okay, Jack. Shamayim va'aretz Ezri me'im Adonai Osei Shamayim V'aretz Al Yitain Lamod Raglecha Al Yanum Shomrecha Hine Lo Yanum Velo Ishan Shomer Yisrael Adonai Shomrecha Adonai Tzilcha Yad Yeminecha Adonai Shomrecha Adonai Tzilcha Al Yad Yeminecha Yomam HaShemesh Lo Yakeka Ve'yareach Balayla Adonai Yishmorcha Mikora Yishmor et nafshecha Adonai Yishmor tzidcha uvoecha me'ata ve'ad olam Adonai Yishmor tzidcha uvoecha me'ata ve'ad olam Mekomo Yavo V'Shalom. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. And thank you to the many people who are tuning into our broadcast of the service here at the Shaarey Zedek Cemetery in Winnipeg, watching from all over the world, in Ottawa, in Calgary, Vancouver, and Israel, just to name of the few places impacted by Bob and his life. Thank you. We open with a psalm. This one is Psalm 121, known as Shir LaMa'alot, a song for those who ascend. I turn my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from Adonai, from God, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way, your guardian will not slumber. No, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian, your protection at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. God will protect you from all harm. God will guard your life. God will guard your going and coming now and forever. May Bob Wener go unto God in peace. Hatzur tamim paulo ki chol dracha mishpat el emunah ve'inav el tzadik v'yashar hu Tzadik Ata Adonai Lamidu L'Hachayot Asher B'Yadcha Pigadon Kol Ruchot Chalil Lecha Zichron Ein Limchot V'hiyu Na'inech B'Rachamim Aleinu V'Kuchot Ki Lecha Adon HaRachamim V'Aslichot Adonai Natan V'Adonai Lakach Yehi Shem Adonai Mevorach V'hu Rachum Yechaper Avon V'lo Yashchit V'hir Ba'al Hashiva Po V'lir Kol Chamato V'yashov He'afar Al Haaretz Shehaya V'aruach Tashuv El HaElohim Asher Netana. The dust returns to the earth as it was, but the spirit returns to God who gave it. May our beloved soul be bound up in the bond of life eternal, and may God, Adonai, send comfort to those who mourn and grant strength to those whose burden is sorrow. Thank you again for being here, joining together as family, friends, and community to honor Bob Wener, to pay tribute to him and to celebrate his life. A man known in the Jewish community as Yisrael ben Avram ve'Esther, the son of Albert Wener, Zichrono Livracha of blessed memory, and Evelyn Wener. Bob passed away Friday evening, the 16th day in the Hebrew month of Elul. He was 69, just a few months shy of his 70th birthday. We extend our hearts to his loved ones who are now in mourning. His mother Evelyn, his wife Lynn, his children Taryn and Tim, Eleni, Hart and Jocelyn, his grandchildren Lucas, Cooper, Carter, and Zoe, his siblings Jim and Mickey, Ralph and Hannah, and Pam and Gary, his mother-in-law Zoe, as well as many nieces, nephews, and cousins, and many dear friends. Bob was predeceased by his father Albert, by his son-in-law Benji, and his father-in-law Norman. We will hear eulogies today, the Hesped section of our service, from Bob's brother Ralph, his dear friend Morty, and cousins Peter and Carol. The themes of what a truly special person Bob was. Someone with tremendous character, goodness, righteousness, honesty, and respect for others will resound throughout their tributes. They will highlight his deep love of family, but also of community. By way of introduction to what they are going to say, I wanted to share what I learned about Bob, someone I knew a little bit, but not very well, from someone who did in fact know him very well, Rabbi Stephen Garten, the now Rabbi Emeritus at Temple Israel in Ottawa, the Wener family synagogue in the nation's capital. Rabbi Garten told me he has known Bob for the entire time that they have lived in Ottawa, nearly 30 years. As he's been an active member in both the synagogue but also the Ottawa Jewish community in general. More than that, Rabbi Garten and Bob have become friends. There are family connections between their children, and they've regularly stayed in touch. A few nights ago, I had the pleasure to listen as Rabbi Garten spoke to me about a few things. He wanted to convey three critical parts of Bob's personality. Who he is to him and will always be remembered by him. First, just how truly rare it is to meet someone whose success in life, both personal and professional, could not be more oppositely correlated with his ego. Bob Wener carried a lot of things in his life. A sense of obligation, responsibility, generosity, love, but never any ego whatsoever. Secondly, what a true mensch Bob Wener was. An all-around good guy, a great guy. Someone who could relate to anyone and everyone. Instantly likable, charismatic, respectful. As comfortable in a suit in a boardroom rubbing shoulders with big machers as he was in his gear in a hockey rink dressing room with his pals. A man of the people. When it came to Bob Wener, people who met him left him loving him. He was like this, it seems, slight tangent, even from a very young age, when his mother described him as always a challenge, always busy. Growing up in River Heights here in Winnipeg, going to Grant Park High School and later the University of Manitoba for his BA and his MBA, his younger siblings, Ralph and Pam, will tell you that every door in high school, in commerce, was wide open for them waiting when they arrived because of how much everyone respected Bob, who had come before them. Like the wake of a ship, carving out a path that made it easier for others to follow behind, or as they put it, to ride his coattails. That was the power of Bob, and the mensch he was. And thirdly, Rabbi Garten stressed the unbridled joy Bob received from his wife Lynn, his children, and his grandchildren. He was present in their lives in every way, coaching on the sidelines in a suit, taking up a sport he'd never played before, chaperoning on overseas tournaments, drives, rides, all the time, all hours of the day. Helpful, reliable, dependable, and more recently, stepping up in the most amazing way when his son-in-law died unexpectedly. Like a hero figure, a humble hero figure. Thank you to Rabbi Garten. All I can add from my perspective is that Bob's death is tragic. There is no way around that. It is sad and it is unfair, and everyone here today and everyone watching is hurting because a good man has been ripped away too soon, before what should have been his time. Bob's illness robbed him and us of many, many more years where he would have continued to be the amazing, special person who enriched all of these lives. No one deserves Bob's death, but his life, the way he carried himself, what he didn't carry, and certainly the way he lived, treated others, and what he accomplished. His life is something we can and should all aspire to. May Bob Wener rest in peace, and may his memory be a blessing. We now have the opportunity to hear from Ralph, Morty, Peter, and Carol, and the eulogies.
Bobby, there are many superlatives that I could use to characterize Bobby, but the fact that you are all here and Bobby has touched your lives really says it all. I want to share with you my heartfelt feelings. Bobby was my roommate for about 20 years. Growing up, he was my idol. I idolized him, trying to do my best to follow in his footsteps. In sports, in academics, how to start with girls, getting into trouble. I didn't come close to his level of achievements, except maybe getting into trouble. Bobby led by example, and I feel that he was dominant in shaping who I am today. I feel very lucky that I spent 2 great days with Lynn and Bobby a month ago. I am speaking for Jimmy, Pammy, and myself. Bobby redefined the words fighter, strength, determination. Lynn, you have redefined what love really is. You are amazing. Taryn, Elaine, and Hart, we are holding three corners of a very large and heavy blanket. We know that the fourth and most important corner is missing. Bobby held all four corners by himself. We will do our utmost, very best, to cover you, support you, love you. We will be there for you in sad times, in happy times, and times in between. Lastly, we would like to send to Mom and to Zoe lots of love, hugs, sympathy, and comfort. Yehi Zichro Baruch, may his memory be blessed.
Thanks, Rabah. I was born in Winnipeg, and okay, I first met Bob around 8 or 9 years of age. It was playground C hockey out of the Montrose School rink. Bob, at age 8, was already an outstanding hockey player and a team leader. Then I remember Bob in grade 6 in the major work class at Brockcourt School, a class filled with people of incredible potential. Okay. We were in the same Shaarey Zedek bar mitzvah class in the days when 2 young boys were bar mitzvahed every week. 2 young boys read the same Haftorah passage, had to split it in order to meet the demand. Times have really changed since then. We were in the same AZA chapter, toppers. Did this in our teens. We attended Grant Park High School, then University of Manitoba, though in different grades, then years. There were periods in our teens when we saw lots of each other. We both lived in the same area of the modern River Heights ghetto. We had seen lots of each other in our teens, and then we seemed to have gone our separate ways. Until 27 years ago, when Bob, Lynn, and family moved to Ottawa. Ever since, for the last 27 years, I've been fortunate to have had a great friend, a kind, thoughtful friend with whom I stayed in touch, if not daily, then nearly daily, for much of the past 3 decades. I would argue that when Bobby, Lynn, Taryn, Elaine, and Hart left Winnipeg for Ottawa 27 years ago, I would argue that Winnipeg took a big hit. Bob's potential at that time must have been quite apparent. Winnipeg's loss was Ottawa's gain. Bob came to Ottawa to serve as the managing partner of the accounting firm KPMG. He had an incredibly successful career, known throughout the region for running a successful shop, known throughout the region for his vast experience at restructuring and bankruptcy matters, but most important, known throughout his firm as a caring colleague, genuinely interested in the well-being and mental health of his work colleagues. From KPMG, he then went to Ottawa's premier real estate firm, Minto. He went there as CFO, again demonstrating considerable aptitude for that business sector. While carrying out corporate duties at both of these firms, he evolved into an exceptional community leader, participating actively in university boards, participating actively in hospital boards, and serving as president of the Ottawa Jewish Community Centre. In retirement, he was joined the governing body of the federal agency responsible for overseeing federal government investment in private sector ventures. We were very proud of Bob's accomplishments. Throughout this tremendous career, Bob stayed focused. He loved his family, Lynn, the children and grandchildren, parents, Evie and Albert, his in-laws, Zoe and Babe, siblings, Jimmy, Gary, Pam, and their families. He loved his hockey, something that stayed with him from an early age. He loved his new friends in Ottawa, AJ Freeman, Zave Chad, George Smith, and many others who I should be mentioning, but unfortunately cannot here. He loved his old friends in Winnipeg, Barry Weinstein, Rick Manouk, Danny Yan, Rick Korn, Art Searle, again, many more that I can't mention at this time. His new friends in Ottawa, his beloved friends who spent many days on hockey trips, golf trips, they came to see Bob. They came to see what his old friends in Winnipeg already knew, that Bob was a very good listener, that Bob always had time to listen to others. Bob loved boating, excelling at putting his 42-foot cruiser into its 40-foot slip, and he tolerated the Red Blacks. I'm not sure why. How to sum up Bobby's life? I've thought about this. We know in the Jewish community we often say the man was a mensch. He was that for sure. But I think the short yet most precise answer is this. He was a natural. Bob was a natural. Now the word natural might first suggest the idea that somebody excels at a task. In this sense, as I've already said, Bob was a natural, excelling at many things already alluded to. He was a natural corporate leader, he was a natural community leader, a natural hockey player, and we can continue on and on. But the term natural also implies an intrinsic character, something internal to the individual. An intrinsic character. In the Romantic tradition, a character filled with empathy was the natural person. A character filled with empathy, filled with kindness toward others. A naturally empathetic individual. That was Bob. My good fortune, I would say all of our good fortunes, has been to be touched by such a living soul. It's no longer a case of Ottawa's gain, Winnipeg's loss. With Bob's passing, the loss is deeply felt. From Ottawa to Winnipeg, to Calgary and Vancouver. I was very fortunate to be his friend.
Rabbi, Linny, Taryn, Eleni Hart, family and friends. It's with incredible sadness that we stand here before you. But in that sadness, we're also privileged. And there's some joy to be able to talk to you about the wonderful man who touched all of our lives in different and profound ways. For those of you who may not know us, I'm Peter Orick, and this is my wife, Carol. Bobby became a part of our life when he married my cousin, Lynn. However, he wasn't just a cousin by marriage. He was like a brother to us, who we will sorely miss. I have so many memories that I will always hold close to my heart about Bobby. And we'd like to share a few of them with you. We share them with you because he's still very much with us, and because they remind us all of the good that made Bobby who he was.
Our first memories of him are from a pre-wedding party we had for Bobby and Lynn at our house. There was quite a commotion and a lot of excitement as we learned more about this dark-haired, handsome guy who was joining the family. He was ticking all of the boxes. He was Jewish. He was from Winnipeg. And he could cook. He was perfect. And he really was. Over time, we fell in love with the man that Auntie Zoe rightly described as the mensch's mensch, calling him my Bobby, my Bobby.
We knew he was the right guy because the menu at that party included hot popcorn and beef bones, both staples through our long relationship and friendship. We immediately took to Bobby. But then, who wouldn't? He was warm, unassuming, and friendly. These qualities and many others were always present as our families began to spend more and more time together. One of our most valued traditions with Bobby and Lynn and the kids and the grandkids has been our annual winter get-together Whistler. For nearly 30 years, where Hart used to say, we're in his cabin.
Bobby liked to wake up early, even at Whistler. But in typical Bobby fashion, he always made use of the morning by looking to help others. Usually he began with a walk into the village to bring home the daily cup of Starbucks. Then he managed to get 3 kids, and eventually grandkids, ready for ski lessons in time for the start of the day. It was only once everyone else was taken care of that he would start to consider his own needs.
A need that was all-encompassing for Bobby was showing his love to his wonderful wife, Lynn. He supported her career and he supported her causes without reserve. He loved her openly, and it was clear to all that they were a great team.
Family always came first for Bobby. He went to all of Taryn and Eleni's ringette games and Hart's basketball and soccer games, and later he did the late-night party pickups. He always walked magic in the cold morning and came home with Starbucks in hand. He wasn't loud, he wasn't noisy, but you knew that he saw you and that he cared. He didn't need to tell you, but you felt it. As his niece Nafar said, Bobby was such a warm family guy that always made me feel safe and loved. Bobby was certainly proud of his 40 years of marriage to Lynn and the 3 wonderful children they raised together. Bobby's joy from spending time with them was obvious to all, and this joy grew even greater as he became a popsy to his grandkids, Lucas, Cooper, Carter, and Zoe. Air Canada and WestJet's stock prices were partially propped up by their constant crisscrossing of the country to visit their children and grandchildren.
And yet, Even though he always put his family and friends at the forefront of his life, he managed to carve out an enormously successful career in business. Bobby obtained a BA, MBA, and CA and was awarded an FCPA, FCA. His education was only part of why he rose through the ranks in 35 years at KPMG, where he ultimately became the managing partner in Ottawa and Eastern Ontario and deputy chair of KPMG Canada. Much of his success could be attributed to his personality and his superior intelligence. Both were perfectly suited to leadership. He was, to use the word again, the perfect combination of intelligence and thoughtfulness. He was known for mentoring others at work, and I'm sure anyone who worked under him would have felt that he supported them and helped them achieve their goals. It's interesting, he received the Robin Hood Award years and years ago when he was skating on River Heights. The Robin Hood Award was from Quaker Oats and it was given for the most valuable player on and off the ice. Even in those days, it was clear who he was. One of Bobby's happy places later in life was being on his boat with Lynn and his family. It was less about the trips that he would take and much more about being able to spend time all together in a relaxing environment. He and Lynn would often drive to the marina just to hang out, not even taking the boat out of the slip.
If Bobby wasn't on his boat, he was probably driving someone around town. He would drive all over town because someone needed a ride, usually Lynn or a senior. It never felt like a burden to him, and he would never make anyone feel like a burden. Even dogs qualified for his dedication and love. Someone told us the story that the family went to Montreal, probably for one of the kids' games, but that meant there was no one in the house to make sure Magic had water. Only Bobby would drive back and forth several times in one day to make sure the dog was looked after.
Bobby wasn't just family and business. He worked tirelessly for community causes in whichever city he and Lynn lived. He was the chair of several charitable organizations, including the Ottawa Soloway Jewish Community Centre, the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario Foundation, and the Manitoba Theatre for Young People. He sat on all sorts of boards, Carleton University, many others, and he helped other organizations with his financial expertise. The amazing thing was, he just did these things. He never boasted, never talked about it. He was a doer, not a talker.
Bobby's devotion to doing the right thing was evident when left with the unenviable task of having to sell Benji's business. He didn't just look to sell to the highest bidder, but wanted to ensure that Benji's employees continued to maintain their jobs.
Bobby lived fully. He was always present emotionally for his family and friends. Last week, he continued to think about the feelings of others, even as it became clear that his remaining days were short. He expressed to me that his greatest sadness was he would not get to see his grandchildren grow up. Excuse me. He loved them so much, and what a role model he would have been for them. His devotion to Lynn was total. The kids and their partners were his pride and his joy. The loss of Benji was just devastating to him. It's hard to sum up a life such as Bobby's. There's a notion rooted in mystical Judaism known as the Lamed Vavniks. This refers to the 36 righteous people whose role in life is to justify the purpose of humanity by doing good deeds. The Jewish tradition holds that their identities are unknown to each other. The 36 people are simply too humble to believe that they are one of the 36. Their unknown, self-imposed job is just to help others and humanity. We believe Bobby Wener was one of them. May his memory be for a blessing.
Thank you so much to Ralph. Thank you to Morty, and thank you to Peter and Carol for those beautiful, heartfelt, and fitting eulogies for Bob Wener. We'll now chant the El Malei Rachamim prayer, the traditional Jewish memorial prayer in Bob's honor. El Malei Rachamim Shochein Bameromim Hamtzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashchina B'malot Keroshim Uteorim Kezohar Rakia Mazirim Et Nishmat Yisrael Ben Avram Vester Shelach Leolamo Began Dente Menuchato Anabal Harachamim Hastireu Beseter Kenafecha Leolamim Utzror Bitzror Achaim Enishmato Adonai Hu Nachalato V'yanuach B'shalom Al Mishkavo V'nomar Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the soul of Bob Wener, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that he find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace. And let us again say Amen. In a moment, we will turn to the words of the mourner's Kaddish, and then we will conclude our service honoring Bob Wener with the familiar ritual of shoveling earth into the grave. The family will lead us, and then everyone who is here at the cemetery with us is invited to participate. It is a mitzvah, a righteous act we do selflessly, like Bob, without any hope of any reward, to make good on the ultimate respect in Jewish tradition of accompanying a loved one to his final resting place. We believe our loved ones deserve to be buried by our own hands. Kind hands, knowing hands, sorrowful hands, hands which once held their hands. It is a painful act, we recognize this is true, but we remind ourselves that shoveling is a way of caring for someone who meant so much to so many people, an act born of love and compassion. Again, the family will lead us and everyone is invited to participate. You may not be able to see where you're standing. There is a small pail where I'm kind of pointing, and the reason is it helps people participate. Most people will pour 3 shovelfuls of earth, but there are different customs in different Jewish cemeteries from community to community. Some people will use the front of the shovel, while some people will use the back. Some people will return the shovel to the earth instead of passing it to the next person as if reluctant to pass on the burden. Other people don't have that custom and will pass the shovel. Whatever the custom that resonates with you, with which you are familiar, we encourage you to embrace, to infuse meaning into such an important act, time-honored in our tradition. The pail is for anyone who doesn't want to use one of the big shovels. It is a little slick, a little muddy, so just be mindful. But if it seems too daunting or overwhelming and you still want to participate, there is a small shovel, sand, and a pail where I'm pointing here in front of the large pile of earth that you can use to perform the mitzvah just as well. The family will be sitting Shiva at Jimmy and Mickey's home, Bob's brother and sister-in-law. 72 Bard Place is the address. They will be receiving visitors this evening from 7 to 8:30 with prayers at 7 o'clock. Tomorrow in the afternoon from 2 to 4, and again in the evening 7 to 8:30, and tomorrow there will be prayers at 7 as well. The family has asked me to be explicit about this. With everyone coming to the Shiva house, please wear a mask. If you don't have one, they'll have extra ones there, but please be prepared to wear a mask. Earlier in the service, when we performed Kriya as a family and when we began our introduction, and now here in conclusion, we offer the words of Job, the epitome of suffering in Jewish tradition. Adonai Natan, Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevorach. God has given, God has taken, blessed be the name of God. May Bob Wener be a blessing. May his memory be a blessing as we mark that his essence will never leave the hearts and souls that he did touch. The Mourner's Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'yit Gadash Shemei Rabah Be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabah Mivorach le'alam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal Shmei dekudsha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. May the one who creates peace and harmony on high bring peace and harmony to us, to all Israel, and to all humanity, as again together we say, Amen. Thank you again to everyone who is here. Thank you to everyone who has tuned in. Thank you to the family for the honor of officiating over this funeral service, this Levaya for Bob. And to the family we offer in conclusion these words, Hamakom yinachem etchem b'toch sha'ar avelei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. May you be comforted and consoled. May God comfort and console you among all those who are or who have ever been in mourning in our community. Invite the family to lead us, and thank you again.